And I do welcome you to this episode of the breakfast meeting. It is the morning breeze, and today we're going to be casting an eye on the education sector and the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdown in general, and how it has been impacted in various occasions that education is not going as expected. But we do applaud various people that are stretching a hand to see that they contribute to the fight against COVID-19. Of course, I'm not a philanthropist, but there are many there that have lended a hand to the task force that was constituted by the President of Uganda to see that they help people in various areas, those that cannot afford to access essential needs for survival. Today we're going to be looking at the education sector, and in the studio today I have the Vice Chancellor of Kampala International University to help us understand, Dr. Muhammad Mpenzo Mihigo, the Vice Chancellor of Kampala International University, who is going to help us cast an eye on the education sector and how feasible is online education. You're welcome to the NBS studios.
Thank you so much, Elijah. Good morning, our viewers. And it's a great pleasure, but also very sad.
I'm delighted to have you.
Yeah, sad that the COVID-19 has really claimed a lot of lives. But
in general, if we look at the tertiary institutions, since the 20th, when the first guidelines from the President were implemented, the closure of all education institutions, looking at your institution alone, but also in general, how has COVID-19 and the lockdown impacted the education sector?
Of course, it's really it was a very shocking, first of all, abrupt decision where, all of a sudden, we didn't expect that this pandemic would really, come closer home. And so His Excellency, the President, took a very bold step, and the government of Uganda, to actually decide that we go into a shutdown. As a higher education institution, of course, we are part of the society and part of the community. We do bring together staff and students, and also the guardians outside there actually were waiting and anticipating. And so we had to comply as a university and all the other institutions of learning. But of course, it came in such an abrupt manner that it required that all the universities and other tertiary institutions and other education institutions at the lower level get prepared and then ask the question, what next? And so as KIU, the leading private university in this country, with a teaching hospital, we think, and we're actually doing and participating in the shutdown, trying to remain up to speed with the institution without completely getting off the site.
How applicable is your plan B, the online studies? How applicable is it, the fact that not all students can afford the requirements for online education?
Yes, absolutely. This is a fundamental question. And just prior to the shutdown, there was actually a second annual conference on higher education coordinated by the National Council for Higher Education. And we were deliberating as universities on what we call the fourth industrial revolution, where there are going to be digital disruptions, technologies that are going to disrupt our lives and so on. And universities were being called upon to ensure that they put up facilities, infrastructure, but in addition to prepare both the staff and the students. Now, when there was a shutdown, the physical interface between lecturers and students was no longer possible. And so we had to deploy our infrastructure on the learning management system. We met students before we shut down. We had dialogue with the student leaders, and we also said, okay, hang on, we are going to shut down for the first 4 weeks. We had gone like halfway the semester, and so there is content that was to be covered in the remaining, half of the semester. There were continuous assessment tests that were supposed to be delivered, and so students were told, look, what we are going to do amidst this challenge, we will avail content, soft copies of the content, and so wherever you may be, you would be able to access this. Now, the challenge, as you are asking, some students were actually caught up in the city and actually could not even travel after, again, when the private vehicles were stopped. Others were able to travel. We are trying to ensure that those who can access WhatsApp groups can also remain in touch. And we are making it flexible because the Ministry of Education has provided guidance that there are no online exams, but they did not say there's no continuous studying. So we are saying this is a pilot period for us, And we are gathering statistics and data to see compliance in terms of how prepared are our staff and also our students. It's not only a challenge to the students. Some of the staff, you know, in universities have remained, you know, like before computers were introduced, and they need training, they need to have exposure. Now, that's on the part of academic delivery. In terms of university functions like Senate meetings, management meetings, we've put up platforms actually where we conduct meetings, we take decisions, and we are discussing. Amidst all this, we were even planning our own graduation in June. I'm sure there are other universities that had other plans to do. So we're asking the question, shall we have an online graduation? You know, this would be a very interesting.
Yes, but Doctor, as we examine in online education, truth be told, there's been a belief that online programs are more expensive than actual programs, the ordinary programs, and the fact that business is not running as usual. There is less money in flow, or almost no money in circulation.
Right.
Even when the central bank is taking various measures to see that the economy gets back on its feet. What measures and how expensive are they going to be throughout this period to ensure that more people are engaged in online programs and their careers are not in a standstill?
I think it's not true really that online delivery is very expensive. It is costly at the first time. You know, the investment that is required is substantive, especially if at the institutional level. You must deploy equipment, you must ensure your bandwidth is good, you must have the virtual teachers, you know, people who are assisting the students on a 24-hour basis. That's on the side of the institution. So initial investment may appear big, but actually along the way, the learning becomes more interesting. And
does this explain why most high institutions in Uganda had no online programs at all until now?
No, I think it's a yes and no, because yes, in a way that still our society still believes in a traditional mode of delivery. You know, you sit behind and the lecturer stands before you and delivers a lecture. This is how we have been doing it. It's just like most people do not believe in online degrees, you know, even when they are accredited. But actually, there's more that you can actually learn through online than physical interface. We have issues of numbers in classes. We have issues with the instruction environment within the, you know, we need to have digital equipment. We need to ensure that the lecturers are up to speed. But you may have even scarcity of the, you know, the very best. For example, in disciplines of medicine and engineering, you know, we could still have simulations used in order to impart technical skill and practical skills to our students. So that's on the part of the institution. On the part of the students, for me, I think, whereas we are in a shutdown, it's going to be inevitable, because it's just like going to become a requirement that students, most of them, well, a majority of them hold smart gadgets, you know, phones, tablets, and so on and so forth. And so rather than spend a lot of time on social media, on these gadgets, we are trying to encourage our students that this is a learning experience. When we have the opportunity to get back, you know, physically to meet, we will require that our students definitely either get, you know, like offline materials, learning materials.
Dr. Mpenza Mihigo,
yes,
it's one thing to have a gadget and another to have the internet that can sustain an online program for all that period of time.
Absolutely.
And we do consider and also acknowledge the fact that internet in Uganda is quite expensive.
Yes.
How are you working to solve this?
I think it's going to be really a contributory force that we need to work together with the government. Already universities are accessing a service from, you know, provided by the Research and Education Network of Uganda, which provides highly subsidized internet. We are discussing with them to ensure that rather than access the internet bandwidth on campus, we can make it available to our bona fide staff and students. So it's one issue. The government needs
those
to
that live within the proximity.
Within the proximity, but the technologies are available to roll it out such that if you are in Karamoja or Soroti or wherever, this bandwidth can be made available to you virtually. So this is where we need government's intervention to try and invest much more in laying this, you know, fiber throughout the country, make it accessible. Internet will become now a requirement. It will become like
a requirement.
It's going to become a minimum right, as we go along, because otherwise we will be faced with the problem of lagging behind. Other countries already are availing materials online. Institutions are going online, and so we will have to have a blend.
At what level are you right now?
At the moment,
in that regard?
At the moment, we are good to go. We already have our learning management system. We are integrating our content. We are making available. At the moment, you don't even need to have access rights. You can log on through the KIU website, and you are able to access the content for your different degree or program. Even admissions are done online. Every other thing is also done online.
You did tackle something that various organizations do not acknowledge online programs or online degrees, those that are acquired online.
Yes.
How are you working to ensure the society or employers accept and appreciate online programs?
This is other than affecting us as education institutions. We think it is going to cut across. It will affect business. It will affect the way we do our work, and so we are thinking that the bottom minimum requirement that we will need for any education institution will require to have some component of online delivery. And therefore, the National Council for Higher Education, which is our regulator, will definitely have to provide some guidance. At the moment, institutions have the liberty to try and bring on board content of curricula that are accredited. Because I imagine if a program is accredited, then having it delivered online is just a mode of delivery, because the National Council for Higher Education will definitely have to check whether the institution is doing it the right way.
For proximity, and also putting in consideration those students that are up-country or staying outside the country or in far-to-reach areas, and Kampala International University being an international university, I presume, how are you working to be inclusive, to see that even people that live in far-to-reach areas, people that cannot afford smart gadgets, are also included in these programs?
Of course, this is going to be a task now. So as I've said, we are piloting this model, and we know the distribution. We have a wide coverage of representation of students, both international and within Uganda.
Because I'm quite frankly sure that most of your students right now have been sent home.
Yes.
And not all of them come from Uganda, so they've been sent home to their different countries since the 20th of March, when the first guidelines to close tertiary institutions were aired out by the president.
Right. So for the internationals, actually you'll be surprised, quite a number of international students were unable to fly, because after the shutdown, what followed was the closure of the airport, no flights. And so we still have some international students who are resident and who are being taken care of by the university, ensuring compliance, to all the regulations by the Ministry of Health and the directives of the president. But for the local students, the infrastructure, as I have said, we are getting feedback. We are conducting surveys to ensure we understand who is actually accessing and who is not accessing. And so this will also enable us to identify hotspots where we will be able to avail, access to our students. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's leave academics alone and go into COVID-19. KIU Research Hospital has been very active in combating COVID-19.
Right.
If you'd give us a sneak peek into the various activities that have been underway.
Right. Kampala International University Teaching Hospital, by the way, I keep reminding our viewers that we are the only university with its own teaching hospital. We also have teaching sites in other regional referral hospitals where we deploy our students to go and do their clinical practice and also prepare for their internship after approval by the government. Now, what KIU Teaching Hospital has done, first of all, it has prepared itself. We have got, a dedicated ward that has been set aside to prepare just in case. We have also put ventilators on the side. We have also trained our staff to be prepared in handling, ensuring compliance, by both patients and also the staff themselves. And in addition, what is very interesting, the university has undertaken a very big project. Actually, we are calling it the Virus Outbreak Data Network. So it's called VODAN. So we are trying to ensure with other partners like Phillips Foundation and also Go Fair Foundation. Go Fair, in brief, is a foundation that allows access to data, that is easily findable, it's accessible, it's interoperable. In other words, if you access the data, you are able to retrieve it and also reuse it. So the university, and in Africa, we are the only institution that is undertaking this project through KIU Teaching Hospital and also the Kampala campus at Kansanga, in which we are training data stewards. We're also setting up infrastructure. What will happen using artificial intelligence, we are going to make, to be able to access health data that tries to develop patterns on the spread of COVID-19. What is happening now, there's no enough data. You've seen even globally.
Very true, very true.
Even globally, the statistics they are showing is actually less than actuals that are happening. So as a university, we have deployed our teams and we are working together with universities in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Zimbabwe and South Africa, and Nigeria as well, to establish a huge African network, and KIU is very glad that is sharing this particular effort. And so we are asking our students and our staff to take this matter very seriously, and our parents. We need them alive. Very true. Because you can only enjoy if you are healthy and living. Okay. So this is one of the efforts we are contributing, also under the stewardship of the Ministry of Health. We are participating and we are conducting research at the moment to ensure that we develop patterns of the spread of the COVID in the country.
From your research projects and a scientific point of view, do you find it necessary to do more analysis on the coronavirus to see how it is impacting Africa alone? Is it treating Africa differently as compared to other parts of the world? We've been fortunate that in Uganda we've registered so far 12 recovery cases from the 55 total cases. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think there are theories about the small numbers that depicting African presence of COVID-19. One of the reasons is probably, the theories is that there is less testing. But we appreciate that in Africa, and in Uganda in particular, we have taken very bold steps, and we are very privileged, and we are thankful to the government of Uganda. And so, as Africans, this theory is that COVID doesn't kill Africans, it doesn't affect the youth, it only attacks those who have underlying health conditions. We particularly want to say that the misinformation that is going around is part of the project that we are handling now. We want to ensure we participate in making available correct information about COVID-19 and any other pandemic, because once we set up the infrastructure, then we are able to share data, because with good data, decision-making becomes quite easy.
What else is the university, KIU, doing to support communities in these challenging times?
It's really a very big, there are two problems. First of all, mobility is an issue. So even if you wanted to engage communities, it's now not possible. And as you rightly asked previously, many of the communities are not yet having access to social media and so on. But what we are trying to do in our own humble way, we are availing a lot of information. Every day we have minimum of 5 detailed posts on our website. We are engaging through Facebook and other social media networks to ensure that we keep the communities and also relaying the government information.
Well, apart from information and education, the role that you have right now, I don't know if you engaged in philanthropy. Is there any other assistance that you're giving to society?
Of course we have, because we have our teams on the ground. We are making available. I'm sure the Board of Trustees and the University Council will be in a position, to contribute in materially, but at the moment we are engaging our brains and minds to ensure that we contribute. It's a priceless contribution that we are giving, and we are humble that this is happening and government is accepting our participation.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Dr. Mohammed Mpeza-Mihigo is the Vice Chancellor of Kampala International University, and we've been casting an eye on the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdown of the country and the economy in general on the education sector. Well, he gave us his various views and areas on how to see that online education can be properly implemented. It's been the breakfast meeting. My name is Elijah Tudiagmanawe, and have a beautiful day ahead of you.